So, we're jumping into a timeless fable from Aesop today, but it's one that really hits home because it exposes a very, very modern problem. You know the one, that trap of constantly comparing ourselves to others, and what happens when our ego gets a little bruised. Okay, this idea right here, this is the absolute heart of the story. It's a huge warning against a very specific kind of pride, right? The kind that makes us think, hey, I have the same basic parts as that great person, so I must be their equal. It's a dangerous thought. And we're going to see exactly how that kind of vanity plays out, especially when there's a predator nearby. So this old story, it's the perfect introduction to what you might call a psychological pitfall, this thing called comparative vanity. And it's a trap that, let's be honest, so many of us fall into, especially today, in a world that's just built on social comparison. So the story is set on the King's Highway. But I want you to think of this highway as, I don't know, your social media feed or your office, basically any public stage where success and power are on full display. And it's on this stage that we meet our three main characters: the rat, who feels totally overlooked, the elephant, who's getting all the praise, and crucially, the ever-watchful cat. All right, let's get into the story and meet our cast: the rat, the elephant, and the cat. And their tale kicks off, like a lot of these fables do, with what seems like a totally ordinary journey. So here's our rat, right? We're told right off the bat that he's very proud. But check out where he is. He's in the ditch, kind of on the sidelines. He is not the center of attention. And that is about to become a huge problem for him, because suddenly this grand royal procession comes into view. And leading the procession, the elephant. This thing is the star of the show. It's huge, it's celebrated, it's literally carrying the king. And amidst all this spectacle, our proud little rat, he's completely ignored, just not noticed at all. And you can just imagine what that does to his ego. It takes a massive hit. And there it is. That's the moment, the fatal error. The rat's wounded pride just explodes and he lashes out. He starts listing his own body parts. I have eyes, I have ears, I have legs, as if that's some kind of resume for greatness. He's not earning respect, he's demanding it. So while the rat is so busy, shouting at the elephant and being consumed by this comparison, he completely forgets about his own surroundings and the very specific dangers that are lurking there. And just then, as the cat leaps, reality intervenes. And believe me, it is swift and decisive. Wow. The fable delivers its lesson with just brutal efficiency, doesn't it? The point is, vanity doesn't just make you look silly, it makes you blind. The rat was so obsessed with the elephant's greatness, the thing he envied, that he totally missed the predator he actually should have been afraid of. Okay, so let's bring this into our world. How does this ancient fable translate into a very real psychological trap that we run into like every single day, whether it's in our careers or just scrolling through our social media feeds? So, at its very core, what we're talking about is mistaking your simple existence for some kind of profound essence. It's basically saying, hey, I've got a laptop and an internet connection, just like that super successful CEO, so why aren't I respected like they are? You can see how that logic is, well, it's just deeply flawed. And this really is the key distinction, isn't it? The hardware versus the software. See, anyone can have the hardware, the basic tools, the attributes, the eyes and ears. But the essence, that's the software. That's the impact, the responsibility, the wisdom you actually build with that hardware. That's what the crowd was admiring in the elephant, not just its legs, but what it was doing with them. And this dynamic, man, it plays out everywhere. You see it all the time. On social media, the rat is that bitter, anonymous commenter who's just tearing down a creator, totally blind to the fact that their own negativity is the cat that's going to tank their own reputation. And in the office, it's that arrogant junior employee who really thinks they're just as important as the CEO right before they get fired for insubordination. So this fable kind of holds up a mirror and forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. Where in our own lives are we being the rat? Where are we shouting from the ditch, demanding that the whole parade stop and look at us, when we haven't actually done the work to earn a spot in the procession? Why is it so dangerous? Well, because it's a fatal distraction. It's that simple. When we get consumed by our envy for the elephant, we lose all sense of self-preservation. We completely miss the real threats that are right in front of our faces. The project deadline we're about to blow, the relationships we're damaging, the real-life cat that's just waiting to pounce.
Okay, so knowing this, here are the common pitfalls we really need to watch out for. You gotta remember that a hurt pride makes for a terrible strategist, that having true vision is so much more than just having eyes, and that getting noticed because you're complaining is a world away from being respected because you're actually contributing. Recognizing this stuff is the first big step out of the trap.
All right, so the fable's given us the diagnosis, right? But what's the cure? How do we actually apply this wisdom and, not end up like the rat? Well, it all starts with a major shift in perspective.
And these lessons, they're basically a call for some radical humility. Like, instead of calling the crowd fools, maybe, just maybe, we should ask what they see that we don't. And that last point, it's pretty chilling when you think about it. The cat, the agent of pure reality, is the one that gives the final, unbiased assessment of our actual value in the world.
So, to get there, we can adopt a few growth mantras. These really help shift our focus inward, back to ourselves. Because look, the elephant's success doesn't take anything away from you unless you let your pride convince you that it does. The only way to build real, lasting confidence is to ground your self-worth in your own actions and your own integrity. So what's the big lesson here, ultimately? It's this. Be an excellent rat. Seriously, be the absolute best rat you can be. Master your own ditch, know your own road. That is a life of integrity. The goal isn't to become some bitter, resentful imitation of an elephant. So let this be your final reality check. There is real dignity and value in your own journey, in your own voice, on your own road. The trick is to know its true scale and to find your power there, far away from the parade and most importantly, safe from the cat.